For decades, we gazed into the cosmic abyss, hoping, guessing, imagining. We were searching not only for planets or stars, but for something else, something impossible. We sent our machines, Voyager, Hubble, and now the James Webb Telescope, to cut through the darkness of space and unveil its deepest secrets. But what Webb has just discovered may not be a mystery. It could be a message. And even worse, it could be alive. At first, 3 Atlas looked like just another interstellar traveler, a ghostly stone thrown into the void. But it glowed not just for show. It pulsed, not randomly, but with a chilling precision like a heartbeat, like a signature. And what followed was not just a mystery, it was a warning. Stay with me until the end. Because if this discovery is what some scientists believe, then we are not alone, and never have been. The James Webb Telescope was created to look further than human eyes ever could, through galaxies to the birthplace of stars and beyond the edge of time. But during a routine survey of deep space, he recorded something moving unnaturally. A spot of light where there should have been nothing. This was 3 Atlas, the third confirmed interstellar object passing through our solar system. But unlike Oumuamua or Borisov, this one was not silent. It screamed. At first, astronomers thought it was just a highly reflective body, like a comet covered in ice. But the infrared sensors of Webb revealed something much stranger. The object did not reflect heat from the sun. It produced it. The internal thermal signal was concentrated and pulsed faintly. It was not a signal from a stone. It was a signal from something active. When NASA and ESA teams began analyzing the data, one model kept surfacing. A rhythmic thermal pulse emanating from the depths of 3 Atlas. Natural objects do not behave like that. Comets emit heat as they sublimate, releasing gas and dust in unpredictable bursts. But this impulse was consistent, purposeful, like a machine. When the Webb team compared the readings with known astrophysical phenomena, pulsars, neutron stars, a quasar, nothing matched. Then the photometric data arrived. The light spectrum was not scattered. It was focused. Narrow bands of energy radiated at specific wavelengths, like those we use in communications for satellites, spacecraft, and lasers. And that was when whispers began to emerge. It was not a signal we received. Perhaps it was a signal we had just interrupted. The scientists began filtering the signal through Fourier transformations, searching for patterns. Hidden beneath what appeared to be cosmic noise was a terrifying revelation. An impulse. Not random, not natural, but structured. The intervals were too precise, like a whisper encoded in chaos. Some suggested it was a lighthouse. Others believed it was telemetry, data sent somewhere else. And worst of all, the impulse never changed. Since Webb captured the signal, it remained completely stable, unaffected by radiation, movements, or time. It was not the speech of a dying star or a wandering planet. It was something that wanted to be heard, or perhaps something that longed to listen. And then, without warning, everything changed. 3 objects, called atlases, burst into bright light, their brightness increasing by 40% in less than 2 minutes. No natural object emits a light with such symmetry. Thermal data showed that the entire body of the object was heating up as if a machine was turning on. Then its trajectory shifted by a fraction of a degree. And then, with undeniable intent, 3 atlases corrected their path. They no longer followed the passive arc of gravity. They aimed not directly at Earth, but close to it. Aligning with the inner planets, they slightly entered our orbit. The maneuver was so precise and strange that it could not be ignored. Something within the 3 atlases awakened, and they began to move. After the trajectory change, the team of the European Southern Observatory continued their analysis. Using spectral decomposition algorithms designed to detect organic molecules on exoplanets, they reprocessed the radiation from 3 atlases and found something unexpected. The energy signals had fluctuations strangely resembling biological rhythms. It was neither DNA nor proteins, but something more fundamental. The resonance frequencies were aligned with cellular behavior. In other words, the light emanating from 3 atlases did not merely reflect energy. It oscillated as if it were living tissue. It was not an asteroid accidentally mimicking life. It was a signal, encoded in light, behaving like a living system. And the consequences of this were beyond understanding. If the object is partially biological, it could mean one of 2 things. Either it is alive or carries something alive. At the moment when delight turned to fear, a new anomaly emerged. Power levels, if one could call them that, suddenly dropped. Thermal readings leveled off. The radiation dimmed, and the spectral pulses lost their intensity. But the object did not slow down. It did not drift. He continued to move with ominous precision, like a machine switching to invisibility mode. Some scientists described it as a heartbeat, a pause, a breath held. Was he hiding from us? Was he reacting to our attention? One troubling version began to spread. What if we are not the first to observe it? What if this is its protective state? What if every time civilization approaches understanding, it shuts down? Regardless, the drop in energy calmed no one. In fact, it caused even greater horror, for a quiet, cold, invisible probe is far more dangerous than one that makes noise. And then, something much closer to home happened. Monitors in the South Atlantic anomaly, the weakest magnetic area on Earth, began to detect fluctuations. These were not solar flares or gamma bursts, but localized electromagnetic pulses synchronized with the trajectory corrections of Atlas. When the object passed through the outer heliosphere, our planet reacted. Insignificant changes in our magnetic field reflected impulses emanating from an interstellar object. Physicists rushed to find an explanation. No comet or asteroid had previously caused changes in Earth's magnetosphere at such a distance. No natural body should be able to generate synchronized electromagnetic responses. The only logical conclusion is that we are connected. Atlas's emissions affect our world and may communicate with it. At this time, a group of independent researchers proposed a theory too bold for mainstream science, yet too convincing to ignore. They suggested that Atlas is not just a spacecraft, not just a living probe, but a consciously created intelligence. Not a machine controlled by something, not a drone released by someone, but the object itself, a form of artificial or even biological intelligence, arising not in a laboratory, but in the depths of interstellar evolution. This theory suggests that in other parts of the galaxy, consciousness may develop not on a carbon basis and neurons, but in plasma, electromagnetic fields, and engineered materials. If so, Atlas is not just a visitor. He is a messenger of a life we could never even dream of. A life that moves through galaxies, hiding in comets and patiently waiting for civilization to reach a level capable of recognizing its presence. And guess what? We just did. While global observatories recalibrated their instruments to monitor Atlas with maximum precision, a troubling new measurement emerged. The effects of gravitational lensing around the object did not match its expected mass. In fact, the distortion he created in the surrounding space implied the presence of something much denser, or rather, something capable of manipulating gravitational fields. This destroyed every model that astrophysicists rely on to predict the movement and interaction of celestial bodies. The only thing we saw that was somewhat similar were black holes. But Atlas is not a collapsed star. It is smaller than the moon. So how does it distort the space around it? Some theorists suggested that he uses localized gravity control not as a means of propulsion, but as a navigation system, like a submarine adjusting ballast to silently glide through a foreign ocean. This would mean that we are dealing not just with advanced technologies. We are dealing with physics that has been conquered and mastered, not merely studied. Then came what many now consider the most compelling evidence. A small fragment following Atlas broke off and began to spin in space. Initially dismissed as standard comet debris, but when the Webb telescope captured and analyzed its structure, the data left the team in bewilderment. This fragment had nothing extraordinary or organic. It was geometrically perfect, smooth, even surfaces, straight angles, symmetry. Such a structure could only have been created as a result of intelligent manufacturing. Moreover, it emitted no noticeable heat, was completely inert, without radiation or warmth. It absorbed light but never reflected it. It seemed to observe, yet was invisible to itself. Its composition consisted of unknown alloys with atomic signatures not found on Earth or in known meteorite samples. It was not cosmic dust. It was part of something created by an intelligence. Astronomers at the Monarch Observatory in Hawaii began tracking the rotation behavior of the three-eyed Atlas. Like many elongated celestial bodies, it spun, but not randomly. Instead, its rotation revealed something strange. The intervals of time coincided with certain mathematical constants, the number pi, the golden ratio, and even sequences of prime numbers. It seemed that the rotation itself was a transmission of information, a language of movement, something like cosmic Morse code waiting for translation. Some now believe that this rotation is intentional, that it does not occur due to inertia, but performs an act, a ritual of acknowledgement, as if repeating a message over and over. a message meant for visual perception, not auditory. And this raises the main question: are we witnesses or presumed recipients? The latest deep scan using life detection algorithms revealed something that even the most skeptical people turned into believers. Organic signatures, unstable carbon chains, non-fossil proteins, and shimmering signals corresponding to replicating structures. They were not full forms of life, but they represented predecessors, a framework of biological components, synthetic or natural, embedded in the tail of Atlas. Two possibilities arose. Firstly, it could be some kind of biological camouflage, engineering mimicry designed to deceive primitive sensors into thinking that Atlas is natural, a tactic used by many species on Earth, such as octopuses, cuttlefish, and even viruses. But the second theory is significantly more alarming. This biological remnant could have been a deliberate seeding, a delivery system for spreading extraterrestrial genetic code. As if Atlas is not just a probe, but a messenger of life, a modern panspermia using advanced technology to spread life rather than study it. As the object approached the inner edge of our solar system, several magnetometers, both on Earth and aboard deep space probes, began to record strange fluctuations. These were not chaotic disturbances one would expect from a solar storm, but precise rhythmic changes in the local magnetic fields. These impulses appeared in threes, like a metronome with a specific purpose, and they did not weaken with distance. In fact, their amplitude increased as the three-eyed Atlas approached, indicating that the object was not just emitting magnetic energy. It interacted with ours, almost as if it were scanning or synchronizing with the magnetic structure of the solar system. This pattern did not correspond to anything in nature. Some compared it to a handshake protocol, similar to how a spacecraft establishes a secure connection. But with what, exactly? With the sun? With the Earth? Or with something we have yet to discover between the planets? The situation becomes even more alarming. Communications specialists attempted to respond by sending carefully coded radio signals back to the three atlases using deep space network antennas. The signals were built on simple numbers, binary mathematics, and even artificial tones resembling musical intervals. But there was no response, no reply, no echo, nothing. Except that an hour after sending the last impulse, the Atlas trio slightly changed their rotation speed. This change was too insignificant for most instruments, but noticeable enough for the team that initiated the message. Some perceived this as confirmation, others saw it as ignorance, but in any case, it was not random. The Atlas did not behave like a natural body absorbing a message, but like an intelligent object, aware of being contacted and choosing not to respond. In intelligence analysis, this is called conscious non-communication, a psychological tactic where silence speaks louder than an answer. In the boundless vacuum of space, silence invokes horror. Returning to historical astronomical records, researchers discovered something unexpected. Gentle disturbances in infrared observations of the sky dated over several decades. In 1987, 1998, and 2013, there were small anomalies in the same vector along which the Atlas trio is currently moving. This suggests that it may have passed near our system before. But the most interesting part, each appearance coincides with a sharp increase in unexplained radio bursts and gravitational wave anomalies recorded at that time. This raises a sinister question. Has the Atlas trio been here before? And more importantly, are they returning? If this is true, then it is not just an object passing by. This recurring presence, possibly observing the cycles of planetary development, human progress, or something much deeper encoded in Earth's own timeline. Recent recalculations of its trajectory revealed something that shocked the community. The Atlas trio does not head directly towards Earth or move towards the Sun. Instead, its trajectory curves, bringing it closer to Jupiter's moon, Europa. Even more curiously, the adjusted orbit intersects with Saturn's moon, Enceladus, if the object passes by again. Both of these moons are icy worlds. Both hide subsurface oceans, and both are considered prime candidates for the search for extraterrestrial life in our solar system. Thus, a new theory arose. What if Earth is not the ultimate destination at all? What if this creature, whatever it may be, visits oceanic worlds to observe them, to sow or awaken life hidden beneath the ice? We assumed we were special. We thought we were the main target. But what if the true interest of the Atlas trio lies in what is hidden beneath the surfaces of moons that we have not even touched? As deep space transmissions faded into static and the object continued its silent journey, one theory began to gain terrifying popularity. What if the 3 Atlas does not emit signals for communication because it does not need to? What if it is not trying to speak, but rather to listen? Imagine a probe so advanced and ancient that its only function is observation without interference. No lasers, no landing crafts, no messages, only passive absorption of everything surrounding it. Atmospheric resonances, electromagnetic fields, emissions of human technology, even biological rhythms from Earth. Some researchers began to suggest that his silence is not a malfunction or a defense mechanism, but his original design, the perfect spy, invisible and elusive, until now. This redefined the entire situation, because if the 3 Atlas is a probe and it has already been in this system before, then this is not its first report. It could have already sent its data, and the main question is to whom? Perhaps the most terrifying discovery came later. A research group from the California Institute of Technology analyzed organic spectra through a comparative model, not opposing extraterrestrial life, but comparing it with genomic markers found on Earth. What they discovered was not a coincidence, but it was not entirely foreign either. There were structural parallels, repeating nucleotide sequences, echoes of patterns seen in viruses, retrotransposons, and even ancient non-coding DNA sequences. The possibility that biological remnants tracking the 3 Atlas may contain information encoded in a universal genetic language, a structure so fundamental that it can adapt to various planetary conditions, whether through evolution or design. In other words, this object may carry instructions for creating life, not only seeds of alien biology, but perhaps also the very templates from which life on Earth originated. The implications of this discovery extend beyond science. They touch on questions of origin, purpose, and authorship. And if this is so, then the last riddle lies not only in what Tri-Atlas is. It is a question of who sent it. Now we understand that Tri-Atlas is not just a guest, not just an object passing through our skies. It is a question, a challenge, a reflection of our own pride and deepest fears. We peered into the darkness hoping to find stars and instead found an observer, a listener, perhaps even a messenger. But from where? From what time? From whom? The James Webb Telescope provided us with data, but gave us no peace. Because what he discovered there, organic traces, magnetic impulses, engineering symmetry, and coded patterns, does not indicate nature. It indicates intent. And when the universe reveals intent, it means we are no longer alone in this story. And this is real fear, isn't it? That something has been watching us all this time, that our radio signals did not vanish into the void. They reached something much older, something more patient. And now, it has returned. Whether it is the 3 Atlas as a probe, the carrier of the probe, or the creator of the probe, its silence is not ignorance. It is deliberate. If it has not yet decided to speak, the question arises, what is it waiting for? Share your thoughts in the comments, for we may be at the very beginning of the greatest discovery in human history. And if you want to follow every step of what lies ahead, stay with us and keep an eye on events, for this story is not yet finished.